The alien planet of Kalara was a harsh place. Its red sands stretched as far as the eye could see, and jagged mountains loomed in the distance. Storms of shimmering dust often whipped across the surface, making visibility almost impossible. Yet humans had established a small research outpost here, a fragile cluster of metal and glass structures, holding back the wild alien world. Commander Alex Harris had been stationed on Kalara for 3 months. His mission was simple: survey the terrain, collect data on potential resources, and ensure that no hostile alien species were nearby. Despite the harsh conditions, Alex had grown to respect the planet. It was beautiful in its own dangerous way. But now, after weeks of work, it was time to leave. Alex moved through the narrow corridors of the outpost, checking his equipment. His uniform was dusty from the windstorms outside, and his boots left faint prints across the smooth metal floor. A soft hum came from the main generator, the heartbeat of the outpost. Everything seemed quiet, almost peaceful. He was thinking about the journey ahead, about returning to the safety of the human fleet in orbit, when a shadow moved at the edge of his vision. He froze. The figure stepped forward. Alex's eyes widened. It was a woman, but unlike any human. Her skin glowed faintly with patterns that pulsed softly, like veins of light running through her body. She was tall, taller than any human he had ever seen, with a lean, graceful build. Her hair shimmered, almost as if it were made of liquid silver, flowing gently even though there was no wind inside the building. Her eyes were wide and bright, colored like the sky at dusk, and they seemed to study him with an intensity that made his heart skip. For a moment, Alex thought she might be a hallucination. The planet was dangerous, yes, but it had never been known to create illusions. He took a careful step forward. Who are you?" he asked, his voice steady but cautious. The woman tilted her head slightly. Her gaze softened, though it did not lose its intensity. "May I ask something before you leave?" she said, her voice melodic, yet carrying a weight Alex could not place. Alex felt a strange chill. His heart, which had been calm moments ago, suddenly felt heavy, as if it had stopped for a moment. He looked at her closely, trying to understand why a single question could affect him so much. Yes, you may," he replied carefully, trying to keep his tone calm. She stepped closer, and Alex noticed the faint glow on her skin pulsed brighter, almost like it responded to his presence. There was something about her, something otherworldly, that made him both nervous and curious. "I have seen humans before," she continued, "but I do not understand you. I need to know something about your kind." Alex studied her for a moment. Most alien species humans had encountered were either aggressive or completely indifferent. This one seemed different. She seemed worried, vulnerable even. "What is it you want to know?" he asked, keeping his voice gentle. He didn't want to scare her, though he had no idea how fragile or strong she really was. She hesitated. Her glowing patterns shifted slightly, almost like she was thinking hard. Then she spoke softly but clearly. "Would you risk everything for someone you barely know?" Alex blinked. The question was strange, not in content but in how personal it felt. It was not about politics, strategy, or survival. It was about courage, loyalty, and perhaps even the heart. He thought of his crew back on the human ship. He thought of the people who had trusted him in dangerous situations, and of the times he had acted without thinking, just to protect them. Human beings had always been known for their courage, their willingness to fight for what they believed in, even if the odds were against them. He realized for the first time that this alien woman wanted to understand that courage for herself. I would," Alex said slowly. "I do not know everything about the future or what might happen. But if I see someone in danger, if I see someone who needs help, I will risk everything I have to protect them." The alien woman's eyes widened. Her glow flickered brightly, then softened again. She seemed relieved, almost as if she had been holding back a question that weighed heavily on her chest. "Your kind. Humans, you are different," she whispered. "We have studied other species, other civilizations. None have ever spoken like this. None would act without certainty of gain or survival, but you act even without knowing the outcome. It is remarkable." Alex felt a warmth spread through him, a mixture of pride and unease. He didn't fully understand why she was so affected by his words, yet he felt a connection forming between them. A connection that was stronger than reason, stronger than fear. "Why are you here?" he asked finally. "Most of your kind." Humans rarely encounter others on this planet. And if you are alone, why did you risk coming to this outpost? The woman, who had introduced herself as Liara, lowered her gaze. Her shoulders seemed to slump slightly, as if the weight of a heavy secret pressed upon her. I needed to see you. Not just you, but what you represent. Humans have a courage I cannot fully understand, and I must know if it is real, if it is worth trusting. Alex felt a strange mix of honor and fear. Honor, because no alien had ever singled him out like this. Fear, because he did not know what trusting her meant, or what consequences it might bring. Outside, the wind howled against the outpost, rattling the metal walls. The red sands of Kelara shifted violently, almost like the planet itself was alive, sensing the meeting inside. Alex could feel the storm even though the doors were closed. The air inside was tense, filled with uncertainty, curiosity, and something neither of them could name yet. Then I will answer your question, Alex said quietly. I do not do it for reward. I do not do it for recognition. I do it because it is who I am. Humans, we act when we must, even when the odds are against us, even when it costs everything. Liara's glowing patterns brightened again. She took a step closer, just enough that Alex could feel her presence, but not enough to feel threatened. Thank you, she whispered. That is all I needed to hear. For now. Alex nodded, unsure what for now meant. But before he could ask another question, a sharp noise outside made both of them freeze. The outpost's sensors beeped urgently. Something or someone was approaching. Something moving fast across the sands of Kelara. Alex felt his training kick in immediately. He reached for his weapon, scanning the monitors. The storm outside was thick, but the sensors indicated a shape. It was large, almost impossibly large, moving with a purpose that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Liara stepped back slightly, but there was no fear in her eyes this time. Only focus, you may not leave, she said quietly. Not until you understand. The danger. Alex felt a pulse of adrenaline. His heart, which had been slowing after their conversation, began racing again. He realized that Kelara was not just a harsh planet. It held secrets, threats, and perhaps even allies that humans could never have imagined. Then we stay, he said, determination in his voice. Whatever comes, we face it together. Liara's eyes shone with an intensity that made Alex's chest tighten. There was something unspoken between them, a bond forming faster than either could understand. And in that moment, the harsh alien world outside seemed a little smaller, a little less threatening because they faced it side by side. The approaching threat grew louder, the storm howling around them. But Alex did not falter. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and he knew that together, they could survive whatever Kelara had in store. For the first time in his life, Alex realized that leaving this planet might no longer be the most important thing. What mattered now was the choice he had just made, and the strange, glowing alien woman who had asked one simple question that changed everything. May I ask something before you leave? The storm outside the Kelara outpost raged like a living thing. Winds twisted and screamed, throwing red dust against the reinforced metal walls. Alex could hear the hum of the outpost's generators struggling against the harsh environment. The monitors beeped, warning of movement outside. Whatever was coming was big, deliberate, and fast. Alex took a deep breath. His hand hovered over his weapon, his training guiding every movement, but he kept glancing at Liara. Her glowing patterns flickered softly in the dim light of the outpost. She was calm, almost eerily so, considering the storm and the unknown threat outside. Tell me, she said quietly, her eyes locked on his. Do humans always act like this? Brave, willing to face danger without hesitation? Alex paused, lowering his weapon slightly. Her question caught him off guard. Most aliens they had encountered were more practical, concerned with survival or efficiency. But she was asking about morality, courage, and choice. Not always, Alex said slowly. Humans, we make mistakes. We are afraid. We hesitate. But when it matters most, when someone needs help, we act. Even if it costs us everything, Liara's gaze softened. She stepped closer, the soft glow of her skin illuminating the space between them. And what about love? She asked. Do humans risk everything for love, even when the outcome is uncertain? Alex's chest tightened. Love. The word felt heavy, full of meaning he could not explain in a few seconds. He thought of the people he cared about, the crew he had trained with, the friends he had lost, the moments of connection that had defined his life. Sometimes, he admitted, love, friendship, loyalty, they make humans do things that seem impossible. We risk ourselves because we value others more than ourselves. Liara tilted her head, her silver hair catching the faint light. I have read about this in your records, she said, about courage, loyalty, and emotion. But seeing it, hearing it from you, it is different. Humans are remarkable. Your kind is unpredictable and yet full of strength. Alex felt a warmth in his chest, but it was mixed with unease. He did not fully understand why this alien woman, who had appeared suddenly on a remote planet, was so invested in human behavior. And yet her question lingered in the air like a living thing. Before he could respond, a loud thud shook the outpost. Dust and small debris fell from the ceiling. The sensors flashed red. Something was moving outside and it was close. Alex tensed, hand gripping his weapon again. Liara's glowing patterns pulsed rapidly. She raised her hand slightly as if preparing to defend or warn. You must be careful, she said. They are not friendly. They hunt for knowledge, for power. Humans are unpredictable to them. You must survive, Alex nodded. We'll be ready, he said. But you said they hunt for power. Who exactly are they? Liara's eyes darkened. A species older than the records of your fleets. Dangerous, intelligent, relentless. They do not forgive. They will not stop until they have what they want. And right now, they want you. Alex's mind raced. Humans had encountered hostile species before, but this was different. Liara's words carried a weight, a certainty that terrified him. Yet at the same time, he felt a spark of determination. Humans were known for surviving the impossible. Then we prepare, Alex said firmly. Tell me what we need to do. Liara moved closer to the main console, her hands dancing over the controls in ways Alex could barely follow. The console responded to her touch, lights blinking and panels shifting. These are protective measures, she explained. Shields, traps, alerts. Your kind would need hours to understand this. I can do it in minutes, but I cannot fight them for you. That is your choice. Alex watched her work, impressed by her skill and speed. There was no arrogance in her movements, only purpose. He realized that this encounter was more than random. Liara had sought him out for a reason, and now he understood. Her question earlier was not simple curiosity. It was a test. Why me? He asked softly. Why did you come here? Why ask me about courage, love, and loyalty? Liara paused, turning to face him. Her glowing patterns dimmed slightly as if revealing a hint of vulnerability. Because I need to know if your kind, your heart, can be trusted, my people. We have rules, traditions, and decisions that rely on trust, on courage, on selflessness. Human, you are unpredictable. I must see if what I have read is true. Alex swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed down on him. This was not just about survival or curiosity. She was testing him in a way that mattered deeply, not just to her, but perhaps to her entire species. I don't fully understand your world, Alex said honestly. But I know this, if someone needs help, if something is right, I will act. That is all I can promise. Liara's eyes shimmered and a soft glow returned to her patterns. That is enough. For now, she said, I have seen enough to know that humans, you are capable of great courage. But do you know what it means to risk everything for someone else? Alex thought about the question carefully. He had faced dangers before, fought battles, and survived storms. But this was different. This was personal. He felt an unspoken bond forming between them. A connection that went beyond words, species, or even survival. I think I do, he said finally. I may not fully understand everything, but I know that I would risk myself for those I care about. That is human nature. Liara studied him, her glowing patterns pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. She nodded almost imperceptibly. Then you are ready for what comes next. At that moment, a sudden vibration shook the floor. The outpost lights flickered as a massive shadow appeared on the external sensors. The shape was large, moving with precision across the red sands outside. It was unlike anything Alex had seen before, sleek, powerful, and clearly intelligent. They are close, Liara whispered, her voice steady but urgent. You must be ready. I can guide, I can warn, but the choice to survive, that is yours. Alex grabbed his weapon, scanning the storm through the reinforced viewport. The shadow moved like it was aware of them, circling the outpost, testing for weaknesses. He felt adrenaline surge through him, but also a strange calm. He was not alone. Liara was here, and for reasons he did not yet fully understand, she had chosen him. "Then we fight," he said firmly. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Liara nodded, and the soft glow of her body brightened in response. For the first time, Alex felt a strange sense of hope. This was not just about survival. It was about courage, trust, and a connection that transcended species. The storm outside roared, the shadow looming ever closer. But inside the outpost, two beings, human and alien, stood side by side, ready to face whatever the planet had in store. And in that moment, Alex realized something he had never felt before. That simple question she had asked earlier, "May I ask something before you leave?" had changed everything. It was no longer about leaving Kailara safely. It was about standing, fighting, and perhaps even understanding something greater than himself, something that might bind humans and aliens together in ways he could not yet imagine. As the shadow struck the outer walls with a force that rattled the outpost, Alex fired his weapon. The first action of many he would take to survive the storm, protect Liara, and prove the courage that humans were capable of. The fight had begun, and the question lingered in his mind. Was he willing to risk everything for someone he barely knew? The answer was already forming in his heart. The Kailara storm battered the outpost like a relentless wave. The walls shook under the force of the wind, and red dust poured in through small cracks despite the heavy shielding. The massive shadow outside moved with a terrifying precision, circling the outpost and probing for weaknesses. Every alarm beeped constantly, echoing like a drumbeat of impending danger. Alex crouched behind a reinforced console, weapon ready. His eyes flicked from the monitors to the viewport. The shadow's shape was massive, its movements calculated, as if it were thinking ahead, anticipating every human response. Most species Alex had encountered were predictable in battle. This was not. This was intelligent, methodical, and dangerous. Liara moved beside him, her glowing patterns pulsing in rhythm with the tension in the room. She reached out, touching the console, and it responded to her in ways Alex could barely comprehend. Panels shifted, lights blinked, and a soft hum ran through the walls, as if the building itself recognized her presence. "They are more than hunters," she said quietly, her voice calm but firm. "They are predators with strategy. Humans must act with both courage and wisdom. If you act without thinking, they will exploit it." Alex nodded, swallowing hard. He understood. Courage alone would not save him. Survival required intelligence, observation, and timing, and perhaps, just perhaps, trust in someone who was unlike anything he had ever known. "Then we need a plan," he said. "Tell me what to do." Liara's eyes flickered. "The outpost has defenses, but they are old and partially damaged by the storms. We can create traps, manipulate the environment, and use their aggression against them, but we must act quickly. They will strike again soon." Alex leaned over the console, watching Liara's hands move gracefully across the controls. In minutes, she had rerouted power to strengthen the outer shields, created artificial heat signatures to confuse sensors, and set mechanical traps around the perimeter. Every action was precise, like a master chess player setting the board for the opponent's first move. "You are incredible," Alex said, unable to hide his amazement. "I've never seen anyone manipulate technology like this." Liara glanced at him, her expression neutral but her glow brightening slightly. "Your species is strong in many ways. I wanted to see if your courage matched your intellect. Now I see that it does, to a degree. But courage must be tested under fire. This is your test." Alex's pulse quickened. This was more than survival. This was a challenge, one that would reveal the true nature of humans. And despite the danger, he felt something stir inside him, a drive, a determination, a certainty that he could not abandon. "Then let's begin," he said, gripping his weapon tightly. The first strike came suddenly. The shadow outside lunged at the outpost, slamming against the outer wall with a force that shook the entire structure. Alex fired immediately, his shots cutting through the storm, aiming for the moving shape. Sparks flew and alarms blared, yet the shadow did not falter. It moved with a speed and intelligence that made him realize bullets alone would not stop it. "Focus," Liara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Use the traps I set. Force it into the corners." Alex adjusted his strategy, coordinating with Liara's instructions. They led the massive shadow across the outpost using false heat signatures and traps to mislead it. The creature roared, a deep, resonant sound that shook the walls and made dust fall from the ceiling. Yet Alex stayed focused. He could feel his heart pounding, adrenaline flowing, and every muscle ready for action. At one point, the shadow smashed through a sidewall, sending debris flying. Alex ducked behind a support beam, narrowly avoiding falling rubble. Liara moved beside him, glowing brighter now, and extended her hand toward the intruder. A pulse of light shot from her palm, striking the shadow. It recoiled, confused but not defeated. "Good," she shouted. "You are learning quickly, but do not rely solely on force. Observe, predict, act." Alex nodded, following her guidance. Together they forced the shadow into a narrow corridor. Alex blocked its path with a reinforced door, while Liara activated a mechanism that temporarily trapped it in place. For a moment the creature struggled, its movements furious and intelligent. "You see?" Liara said, her glow softening. "Courage alone is not enough. Strategy, observation, and cooperation are equally vital. Humans can combine these qualities in ways few species can." Alex caught his breath, his chest heaving. He realized she was right. Humans were not only brave, they were adaptable. They could learn, change, and survive even against seemingly impossible odds. And in that realization, he felt a surge of pride and connection to his species. But there was no time to dwell on this. The shadow began moving again, testing its confinement. Alex glanced at Liara. She was calm, almost serene, despite the danger. Her presence was reassuring, her glow steady. He realized he trusted her instinctively, even though he barely knew her. "Ready?" she asked. Alex nodded. "Ready." Together they struck. Alex manipulated the controls to weaken the structural support around the shadow, while Liara used her abilities to emit pulses that disoriented it. The creature roared, thrashing violently. But the combined efforts of human ingenuity and alien power worked. Slowly, the shadow was forced back, away from the outpost. For a brief moment, the storm outside seemed to pause, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Alex and Liara stood side by side, their eyes on the receding danger. "You did well," Liara said quietly, her glow returning to a soft, steady light. "You are capable of both courage and intelligence. Your actions, they matter." Alex lowered his weapon, feeling the tension in his body ease slightly. "I couldn't have done it without you," he admitted. "Your guidance, it made the difference." Liara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You have learned quickly. But this is only the beginning. There are greater dangers ahead, and not all of them can be confronted with courage or intellect alone. Sometimes, choices must be made that test the heart." Alex felt a chill. He understood that her words were more than a warning. They were a lesson. Kalara was a planet of challenges, but the real test was not only survival. It was what one was willing to risk and how far one could go to protect others. "Then I'll be ready," he said firmly. "Whatever comes, I'll face it. And I'll face it with you." Liara's eyes shimmered, a mixture of surprise and something softer, something he could not yet name. For a brief moment, the storm outside seemed distant, almost silent. Inside the outpost, a connection had formed, one that transcended species fear and uncertainty. But the planet of Kalara was unforgiving. Even as they celebrated the small victory, Alex knew this was not the end. The shadow had retreated, yes, but it would return. Others might follow. And the question Liara had asked earlier, would you risk everything for someone you barely know? Hung in the air, heavier than ever. Alex realized the truth. Courage alone would not be enough. Human ingenuity, trust, and the bond he was forming with Liara would be tested again. And when the next challenge came, he would have to prove that humans could survive, adapt, and protect those they cared about, even in a world that seemed designed to destroy them. He glanced at Liara. She met his gaze, and for the first time, he saw something in her eyes that went beyond curiosity. There was recognition, respect, and perhaps trust. The red sands of Kalara continued to swirl outside, the storm relentless, but inside the outpost, two beings, human and alien, stood together, ready to face the unknown. And Alex knew that the question she had asked was no longer theoretical. It was real, and he was ready to answer it, whatever the cost. The shadow had returned once before it finally disappeared over the horizon, leaving a tense silence behind. The outpost trembled, but the human and alien had survived. The fight was over for now, but Kalara had already shown that survival was only part of the challenge. The next test, Alex realized, would demand not just strength, not just courage, but heart, and he was ready. The storm had finally started to subside. The red skies of Kalara were still streaked with swirling dust, but the wind was calmer, and the harsh roar that had battered the outpost for hours had become a soft hum. Alex stood near the viewport, scanning the horizon. The massive shadow that had attacked earlier was gone, for now. Yet his mind was not on the danger outside. It was on Liara, and the question she had asked before the fight. Liara moved beside him, her glowing patterns pulsing softly like a heartbeat. She had been quiet since the fight, her focus shifting between the outpost systems and the planet outside. There was something in her demeanor now that was different, more serious, almost hesitant. Alex sensed that what she was about to say would change everything. "You have survived the storm," she said, her voice calm but deliberate, "and you have proven courage and intelligence. But there is something you must understand, something more than survival, more than skill." Alex turned to her, curiosity and caution blending in his gaze. "What is it?" Liara took a deep breath, her silver hair catching the faint light. "I did not come here by chance. My people, we have a tradition that chooses those worthy of trust, courage, and selflessness. It is not a simple test of strength. It is a test of heart. And you, Alex, have been chosen for this test." Alex froze. "Chosen? Me? Why?" Her glowing patterns pulsed brighter, almost like she was gathering her words carefully. "Because humans are unpredictable. We study your species and we observe your choices. Few would act as you did today, facing danger, protecting others, thinking beyond yourself. But there is more to this. My people select partners based on courage, honesty, and the willingness to risk everything for another. That is what I sought to discover." Alex's heart raced. He had faced countless challenges in his life, but nothing like this. The truth hit him. Liara's question, her presence, and even the danger outside were all part of a larger purpose. This was not random. This was a selection, and he was at its center. "You mean, you chose me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Liara nodded. "Yes, but it is not final. The test is ongoing. You must understand the responsibility that comes with this choice. It is not about power or reward or even survival alone. It is about trust, loyalty, and the willingness to stand for someone else, even when it is difficult, dangerous, or uncertain." Alex ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the enormity of her words. He had always believed courage meant facing danger, fighting enemies, and protecting his crew. But this was something entirely different. This was about trust on a scale he had never imagined, about a connection that could influence not just 2 lives, but potentially the future of 2 species. "I don't know if I understand everything," Alex admitted, "but I know that I would do what is right. I would protect those who need it even if it costs me. That is human nature." Liara's eyes glimmered, a mixture of relief and admiration. "Then you understand more than you realize. That is why I came to you. You are different from the humans I have studied. You act with courage, yes, but also with understanding. That is rare. That is why you were chosen." Alex took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of pride and fear. This was no longer about the planet, the storm, or even survival. It was about something far greater, a connection that transcended species and logic. Liara continued, her voice softening. "There is a choice you must make, Alex. You can continue your mission and return to your fleet, leaving Kalara behind. Or you can embrace this responsibility, stay, and see where it leads. It will not be easy. The path is uncertain, filled with challenges, dangers, and sacrifices, but it is also a path of trust, of courage, and of the heart." Alex felt a chill. The question weighed heavily on him. Leaving would mean safety, returning to what he knew and completing his mission. Staying would mean uncertainty, potential danger, and stepping into a role he did not fully understand. Yet he knew one thing. He could not turn away from someone who had risked so much to trust him, to test him, and to reveal this truth. I don't know what the future holds," Alex said quietly, "but I do know that I cannot ignore this. If trust, courage, and responsibility are what matter, then I will stay. I will face whatever comes. I will not leave you to face this alone." Liara's glowing patterns brightened, her eyes shining with emotion. For the first time, Alex saw a hint of vulnerability in her gaze. "Then you have made your choice," she said. "But understand this. Staying here is not simply a matter of presence. It is a commitment to act, to protect, and to honor the bond between us. It is a commitment that may challenge everything you know, everything you believe. Alex nodded, his resolve firm. I understand. And I accept it. Whatever comes, I will face it. For a moment, silence filled the room. Outside, Kalara's winds had calmed further, but the planet still seemed alive, watching, waiting. Inside, the human and the alien stood together, united by a decision that went beyond fear, beyond reason, and beyond survival. Liara moved closer, her glow warming the space around them. You must also know, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, that your actions here will influence more than just our connection. My people, they will observe. Your courage, your choices, your heart, it may determine the future of our species' relationship with humans. The stakes are higher than you realize. Alex felt the weight of her words heavier than the storm had ever been, but instead of fear, he felt determination. Humans were capable of great things. Courage was not just in fighting enemies, but in making choices that mattered, even when the path was uncertain. And now he understood that trust, loyalty, and heart were as important as strength and skill. I understand, Alex said. I will do everything I can to protect you, to honor this bond, and to prove that humans are capable of courage, even beyond what you have seen. Liara's eyes shimmered with a mix of gratitude and relief. Then the next stage begins, she said. There are challenges ahead, tests of courage, choices that will define your path. But I believe in you, Alex. You have shown what it means to be human in ways few of my kind have ever seen. You are extraordinary. Alex felt a strange warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride, connection, and anticipation. He knew that Kalara was far from safe, and that the shadow that had attacked them earlier was only the beginning. But for the first time, he felt ready. He was not alone, and he understood, in a way he had never understood before, the depth of Liara's question, the weight of her choice, and the meaning of courage. As the red sands outside settled and the outpost systems hummed steadily, Alex and Liara prepared for what was to come. The planet had tested them, the shadow had challenged them, and the storm had forced them to act. But now the true challenge awaited, the choices that would define their bond, test their courage, and determine whether trust could bridge the gap between human and alien. Liara looked at Alex one last time before turning toward the observation deck. Are you ready? She asked, her glow steady, calm and full of resolve. Alex nodded, gripping his weapon and straightening his stance. I am ready, he said. Whatever comes, we face it together. And as they stepped forward toward the unknown challenges that awaited, Alex realized something profound. The question she had asked when he first arrived, the question that had stopped his heart, was no longer simple curiosity. It was the beginning of a journey, a test and a bond that would change both their lives forever. He did not know what awaited them beyond the horizon of Kalara's red sands. But he knew this. Courage, trust, and heart were stronger than any storm, shadow, or danger, and he was ready to prove it. The planet was quiet now, but only for a moment. Alex and Liara stood together facing the future, united by choice, courage, and a bond that neither fully understood, but both knew was real. And in that moment, Alex's heart was steady. The storm had passed, but the real challenge, the test of trust, loyalty, and courage, was only beginning. The red sands of Kalara stretched endlessly beyond the outpost. The storm had passed, but the planet remained alive with movement and hidden danger. Shadows shifted in the distance, and the wind carried a faint whisper, as if the planet itself was warning them. Alex and Liara stood together in the central observation room, ready to face whatever challenge lay ahead. Liara's glowing patterns pulsed softly. She had guided Alex through the first tests, the storm, the shadow, the dangers outside the outpost, but now the final challenge awaited. It was not a physical threat, but a choice, one that would determine not just their fates, but the trust between their species. The final stage begins now, Liara said, her voice calm but intense. You have proven courage, intelligence, and heart. But the ultimate test is your willingness to act without hesitation, to risk everything for trust and connection. This will show whether humans are truly capable of the selflessness we value. Alex nodded. His heart pounded, but his resolve was steady. He had faced storms, shadows, and unknown threats. He had proven his courage and intelligence. Now it was time to prove his heart. Suddenly, the outpost's alarms blared. Sensors detected a massive energy signature approaching rapidly from the horizon. The shadow that had attacked before was not alone. Dozens of similar shapes moved in the distance, intelligent and precise, converging on the outpost. They were hunting, not for survival, but for dominance. "Alex," Liara said, her glow brightening, "this is your moment. I can guide you, but the decisions, the risks, are yours. You must act. Trust your instincts, trust your courage, trust your heart." Alex took a deep breath. The weight of the situation pressed on him, yet he felt clarity. Humans were capable of courage in the face of overwhelming odds. They could survive, adapt, and protect. And now he understood that protecting Liara and honoring the trust she had placed in him was as important as survival itself. "Let's do this," Alex said, gripping his weapon. "We face them together." Liara nodded, and together they activated the outpost's defenses. Turrets rotated into position, energy barriers flared to life, and traps lay hidden across the perimeter. But Alex knew that technology alone would not win this battle. Strategy, courage, and the willingness to act were equally vital. The first wave of shadows struck. They moved with terrifying intelligence, avoiding the traps and targeting weak points in the outpost. Alex fired his weapon, coordinated with Liara's guidance, and led the creatures into areas where their momentum could be used against them. The air was filled with the roar of energy blasts, the hum of the outpost's defenses, and the screech of the creatures. Liara stood beside him, her glowing patterns bright and steady. She projected pulses of light, creating barriers and disorienting the attackers. Alex marveled at her skill, but he knew that their combined effort was only part of the solution. The real key was trust. Trust between them and trust in the choices they made together. Hours passed like minutes. Alex and Liara moved in perfect coordination, anticipating the shadows' movements and countering them with precision. Every decision mattered. Every hesitation could cost them. And yet Alex felt an odd calm amidst the chaos. He trusted Liara completely, and she trusted him in return. That bond gave him strength beyond what any weapon could provide. Finally, the last of the attacking shadows fell into a trap that Liara had set with Alex's help. The energy barriers pulsed, enclosing them, and the creatures were neutralized. The outpost trembled under the strain, but it had survived. The horizon was clear, the storm of danger past. For now, Alex lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. Liara moved beside him, her glow dimming to a soft, steady light. She looked at him with a mixture of admiration and something deeper: relief, trust, and connection. "You have passed," Liara said quietly. "You have shown courage, intelligence, and heart. You risked everything, not for reward or recognition, but because it was right. That is the quality my people value above all else. You have proven yourself worthy." Alex felt a surge of pride, but also humility. "I did what anyone would do for someone they care about," he said. I never expected it to mean so much." Liara smiled softly. It was the first time Alex had seen a smile on her face. Most do not understand the weight of trust, the meaning of courage beyond survival. But you have shown it in ways few could. That is why I asked my question when you arrived. That question? It was the first step, and now you have answered it." Alex's heart beat faster. He remembered her words, "May I ask something before you leave?" At the time, he had thought it was curiosity. Now he realized it had been so much more. It was a test of trust, courage, and the heart. And he had passed, but this is only the beginning, Liara continued. "Kailara is dangerous, and there will be other challenges. But now you understand what it means to act with heart. You understand the bond that trust creates. And for that, I am grateful," Alex nodded. He realized that the outpost, the storm, the shadows, they were all part of a greater lesson. Not just survival, but connection. Humans could endure incredible danger, yes, but the true measure of their strength was their willingness to protect, to trust, and to act selflessly. "I'm ready," he said, "ready for whatever comes next. With you." Liara's glow brightened, a soft, radiant light that filled the room. She reached out, placing her hand near his. The energy that pulsed from her patterns was warm, reassuring, and powerful. "Then we continue together," she said. "Whatever Kailara holds, we face it side by side. You have shown what it means to be human, Alex, and that is extraordinary." For the first time, Alex felt a sense of peace. The planet was still dangerous, the unknown still vast, but he was no longer alone. Liara's presence, her trust, and the bond they had formed gave him strength beyond what he had ever known. Outside, the red sands of Kailara glimmered faintly in the settling light. The shadows had gone, the storm had ended, and the horizon was clear. Inside, two beings, human and alien, stood together, united by trust, courage, and heart. Alex realized something profound. The question she had asked when he first arrived, the question that had stopped his heart, was not merely a question. It was a key. A key to trust, connection, and understanding, and he had answered it, not with words alone, but with actions that had proven the depth of human courage. "You asked if I would risk everything," he said softly. "I did, and I would do it again without hesitation." Liara's eyes shimmered, her glow steady and radiant. "Then you are worthy, not just of my trust, but of the bond that unites our paths. Humans are remarkable, Alex, and you have shown why." Alex smiled, feeling a lightness in his chest he had not felt before. The storm had passed, the danger had been overcome, and the choice he had made had defined him. He understood now that courage was not just about facing enemies. It was about trust, loyalty, and the willingness to act selflessly. "Then let's move forward," Alex said, his voice steady. "Together. Whatever comes next, we face it as one." Liara nodded, her glow illuminating the room with warmth and strength. "Together," she echoed. As the sun set over Kalara's red sands, the outpost stood tall, a symbol of survival, courage, and trust. Alex and Liara stepped toward the observation deck, ready to face the unknown challenges of the planet and beyond. The shadows of the past had been defeated. The storm had ended, but the future awaited, full of possibilities, danger, and discovery, and Alex knew without a doubt that he was ready, because he had learned the true meaning of courage. Not just survival, not just skill, but heart. And in that moment, Alex realized something he would never forget. Sometimes, a single question asked at the right time could change everything, and when she had asked, "May I ask something before you leave?" his heart had stopped. Now it beat steadily, full of resolve, trust, and the certainty that humans could rise above any challenge. Together, Kalara had tested them. The shadows had challenged them, and the question had defined them. And Alex knew that as long as he had courage, heart, and trust, there was nothing he could not face.